The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the neatly trimmed lawns of Maplewood, a quiet suburb where nothing ever seemed out of place. It was here that Daniel Carter had built his life. A sturdy house, a reliable job as a financial analyst at a well-respected firm, and a family he felt proud of. To outsiders, his life appeared enviable, the model of stability. He adored his wife, Karen, and their two children, Louise and Max. Each anniversary was celebrated with fine dinners and heartfelt toasts. But little did he know, the foundations of his world were crumbling beneath him. As he prepared for the upcoming 10th anniversary of their marriage, Daniel believed he was finally ready to give Karen a surprise she would never forget. A weekend getaway to a luxury resort. He envisioned the moments, smiles exchanged, laughter echoed, and rekindled flame. But this fantasy shattered one fateful evening, as he arrived home unexpectedly early from work. The moment he stepped into the house, something felt off. The air was charged with an unspoken tension. At first, it seemed benign. Perhaps Karen was simply preoccupied with dinner, or maybe the kids had gotten a little rowdy. But as he walked through the well-furnished living room, the distant sound of muffled voices from their bedroom stopped him in his tracks. His heart raced as he moved stealthily towards the door, listening intently. Karen's laughter was light and flirtatious, but it mixed with another voice, a deeper, more assured tone. A sickening feeling curled in his stomach. The name that resonated from her lips, coupled with the adoration in her laughter, lodged like a dagger deep within his chest. "Brian, you're incredible," she purred, her voice dripping with a familiarity that made Daniel's skin crawl. "I can't wait for our celebration." Daniel pressed his back against the hallway wall, his fingers instinctively curling into fists. Brian, his closest friend, the man he could trust without blinking an eye. Betrayal simmered in his veins, almost paralyzing him with disbelief. Seizing a bold resolve, he pushed through the door, bursting into the room to confront the two people he trusted the most. "Surprise!" he shouted, his voice thick with pain and indignation. The scene unfolded like a gut-wrenching film reel. Karen's face reflected shock and then fear, while Brian's pallid skin crumpled as if he had been struck. Daniel's biting fury was palpable, as every fiber of his being screamed for retribution. Karen stood frozen, attempting to mask her guilt with flailing attempts at explanation. "Daniel, I can—" she stammered. But the words fell hollow in the air, laden with a sense of urgency and desperation. "Save it," he snapped, his voice low but seething with rage. "I know everything." Brian, his demeanor shifting from surprise to shameless defiance, casually brushed off the tension. "Come on, man. You have to understand, it's not what you think." "Not what I think?" Daniel advanced toward him, loathing and betrayal radiating from every heated ounce of his frame. "You're in my home with my wife. What else is there to think?" The confrontation escalated quickly, words ricocheting off the walls, each accusation trading blows laced with fury. Everything he had believed to be real was in ruins, the betrayal echoing like shattered glass, beautiful in its reflection but deadly beneath foot. "Daniel, please, we can talk about this." Karen's tone shifted from panic to desperation, but the pleading only infuriated him further. "No more talking. Not now." The reality of the moment hit him like a cold wave. This was not the life he envisioned. This was a wake-up call, a catalyst for change. With righteous indignation, he stormed into the living room, his heart racing as he contemplated the damage. His life had become a ticking clock, and it was time to take control of the chaos around him. No more playing the victim. He would unleash a silent storm upon the unsuspecting. He locked eyes with Karen, the woman he once believed to be his everything. "I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are. You won't hide behind a smile anymore." For the first time since he discovered the betrayal, he felt a shift within him, an empowerment surging forth from the depths of his wounded heart. It was time. He would confront the world that had become so cruel, so toxic, and let the chips fall where they may. In the chaotic aftermath of the confrontation, Daniel meticulously began his plans. He gathered evidence, painstaking screenshots of texts, receipts for hotel stays, and clandestine gifts, the betrayal outlined in crude detail. With each file, his anger transformed into conviction. This wasn't merely about suffering. This was about justice. Emotional turmoil intertwined with strategic calculations. He began cutting off Karen's financial support, blocking her access to their joint accounts, methodically dismantling the stability she had taken for granted. If she believed she could dance on the ashes of trust, she would soon discover there were consequences for her choices. The following day, Daniel confronted Brian at the office. His voice steady, his expression steely, as he garnered the attention of colleagues. "You think you can betray a friend and walk away unscathed?" Gasps echoed in the break room as he forced the words out, knowing Brian had nothing to counter him with. The seeds of humiliation had already been planted. Now it was time for them to bloom. As he left the encounter behind, Daniel found himself staring into the mirror, his reflection showing a man who had been forged in pain, yet reborn amid resolution. He would not play a role on the stage any longer. He would be the director of his own fate. Each day, he slowly built a trail toward discovery, revealing the true nature of the deceitful duo at every corner turn. Their laughter would become a haunting memory, buried under layers of consequences. He would take revenge not with theatrics, but with the weight of undeniable truth. And Daniel Carter would rise above the ashes of his former life, ready to reclaim everything that was taken from him through a powerful reckoning. This was not just about vengeance. It was about asserting control in a world that had sought to fracture him. With every move he made, he felt something he hadn't in a long while: strength. No more hopeful illusions, only raw, unyielding reality. He was committed to dismantling their world piece by piece, and he would ensure that they would feel every moment of their shaming downfall. It had been weeks since the revelation, and the chaos that had swept through Daniel's life began to settle into a steady rhythm of calculated moves. Each day felt more empowering than the last, as he meticulously orchestrated his plan for retribution against Karen and Brian. The shame he had scorned them with in their confrontation fueled him further, igniting a fire he didn't know existed. Daniel spent his evenings poring over documents, bank statements, and emails, anything that could unravel the carefully constructed facades of theirs. He enlisted the help of a lawyer, Jennifer, an astute woman who understood the nuances of betrayal and was openly disdainful of infidelity cases. She encouraged him to unearth every aspect of his marriage that could turn the tide in his favor. "Your case is solid, Daniel," she affirmed, her voice steady. "We'll make sure Karen pays for what she did, both financially and socially. You have the grounds for divorce, and if you handle this correctly, she won't see it coming." The thought of social humiliation made Daniel's mouth twitch into a smirk. He envisioned long nights spent in their social circles, where mask-wearing friends danced under the guise of normalcy, oblivious to the storm brewing below the surface. These events would soon become the battlefield for his vengeance. As the divorce proceedings loomed, Daniel ramped up the pressure on both Karen and Brian. For the first time, he stood at the helm of his life, steering it with unwavering intent. He scrutinized their expenses and discovered a troubling pattern. Money systematically funneled from their joint accounts into personal ones that Karen had opened without his knowledge. Each transaction became a part of his armory. "Let's discuss this revelation during dinner with friends," he mused to himself, a mix of satisfaction and vengeful delight coursing through his veins. It was time to make their betrayal public, to expose their duplicity. That Friday evening, as darkness began to creep into Maplewood, Daniel invited their circle of friends over, under the guise of a casual gathering. The plush, well-lit living room was the perfect setting for his confrontation. Friends began to arrive, greetings exchanged perfunctorily as the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Daniel felt a sense of anticipation thrumming beneath the surface. Karen, oblivious to the forthcoming storm, poured wine and engaged in light-hearted conversation, her laughter ringing hollow in Daniel's ears. He stifled a growing smile. She had no idea what was about to unfold. As the night progressed, Daniel threw out snippets of information about his life, simple anecdotes that would soon become the canvas upon which he would paint his revenge. Finally, he cleared his throat, capturing the attention of the room. "I have something important to share regarding my marriage and why I believe we all need to reevaluate our perceptions of each other, especially those we trust." The room dimmed, the air thickened with an unspoken tension. Friends turned their eyes toward him, eyebrows raised in curiosity. Daniel could feel Karen's confusion morphing into dread as she realized the gravity of his words. "I discovered some disturbing truths about my wife Karen and her so-called friendship with Brian." He paused, allowing gasps to ripple through the crowd. What was once private betrayal is now public knowledge. Their affair has been going on for months, and I have proof. He produced a series of documents, bank statements highlighting extravagant expenditures that Karen had spent on Brian. The tinkle of glasses ceased. Conversations sputtered to nothing as murmurs began to resonate through the room. "Not only did I find these, but I also have a collection of texts that detail their plans, their romantic rendezvous, and yes, their deceit." He held up his phone, displaying each damning screen capture for the gathering to see, a digital tableau of treachery laid bare for all to witness. The expressions on their friends' faces morphed from shock to discomfort, glances exchanged with mounting disbelief. Karen's pallor shifted dramatically, eyes wild and frantic, her typical facade crumbling in an instant. "Daniel, please," she started, her voice trembling. "You don't have to do this. We can work things out." She stepped forward, desperation lacing her words. "Work things out?" he echoed, with a grim sense of satisfaction. "You mean continue to lie and deceive?" "I think not." Brian, agitated yet defiant, attempted to salvage his dignity. "You're making a mistake, man. This isn't how friends act." "Friends?" Daniel scoffed. "You have not earned that title today. You both have exposed yourselves for who you truly are." The throng of guests shifted uncomfortably, many avoiding eye contact, grappling with the magnitude of the betrayal that had seeped into their social fabric. Shockwaves radiated outward as they processed the betrayal amongst chuckles of disbelief and hushed whispers. The atmosphere shifted. No longer was it fun and warm. It was thick with condemnation. Karen's grasp of self-control dissipated, her facade entirely shattered. Anguish settled on her features, tears welling in her eyes as she glared at the crowd. "You don't understand. It's not what you think." Daniel stepped closer, his voice icy. "Then explain it to them, Karen. Tell them why you thought it was acceptable to throw away everything we built together for Brian's shallow affection." The tableau before him painted a vivid picture of social collapse. Friends who once united over barbecues and brunches now stood divided, torn between Daniel's undeniable evidence and Karen's frantic pleas. He relished the fading support in Karen's eyes as her allies dissipated. One after another, they stepped back, shunning the toxic energy swirling around her. The shame was palpable, and Daniel felt a distinct wave of relief wash over him. This was not mere vindication, it was justice served cold. Social and financial ramifications awaited them, a bittersweet reward for a tumultuous path they had chosen. They would feel this humiliation seep into their personal lives, marking them as outcasts, to be whispered about behind closed doors. As the night wore down, Daniel's presence in the room was commanding, showcasing an unwavering strength that rallied those around him. He recognized that healing would not come from sympathy, but from clarity. He intended to enjoy every anticipated fallout that would ripple outward from the night's revelations. Yet, in one brutal moment, as the crowd began to disperse, shocked, distraught, and seemingly unsure of how to navigate the dissolution of a friendship, they became clear. His heart raced, not just from anger, he felt liberated. Daniel could finally envision a future free of Karen and Brian's lies, one where he would bask in the glow of personal triumph. In that moment of crushing clarity, he stared into the depths of their eyes, knowing he had dealt the final blow, that the truth, however painful, would cut deeper than any weapon he could wield. He had reclaimed his life, found strength within the chaos, and laid bare the lessons that betrayal taught him. The chains that once bound him in resentment had been shattered. He might not bring his family back to the origination of their love, but he would ensure that Karen would never again know peace or acceptance among their friends. That peace, Daniel realized, would be the hardest blow of all, one he would relish until the end. The veil had been lifted, and he stood victorious, the architect of his own rebirth. The aftermath of the gathering unfurled like a relentless storm. The following days were filled with echoes of whispered conversations and glances laden with pity or contempt, each a testament to the tidal wave of Daniel's actions. Word spread like wildfire through the social circuit of Maplewood, and with every retelling, the story morphed into a cautionary tale of betrayal and downfall. Daniel had executed a masterstroke, and he reveled in the perfect execution of his plan. Karen sought refuge at a friend's house, the once commanding presence now reduced to a shadow of her former self. She was an outcast in her own world, a reality that struck her harder than any financial or legal ramification ever could. Daniel was relentless in his pursuit of justice. He focused on the pending divorce and the financial fallout that followed. Jennifer, his attorney, thrived on the momentum Daniel generated. The next step is to file for divorce and pursue full custody. You have grounds to demand significant compensation and alimony, especially given her infidelity, she advised, tapping at her laptop while glancing up with a knowing smile. It's time to hit them where it hurts, financially and emotionally. I want her to understand the weight of what she's done, Daniel replied, steeling himself for the confrontation that lay ahead. He was resolute in his mission, a mission that transcended mere retribution. It was a lesson in accountability. That week, Daniel filed for divorce, presenting the court with a compendium of evidence. Photographs, financial records, showcasing Karen's mismanaged accounts, and details of Brian's involvement that went far beyond casual friendship. The papers laid bare the sordid affair and the resulting financial exploitation of Daniel's trust. In the weeks that followed, Karen oscillated between desperation and rage. She attempted to spin the narrative, telling their circle that it was Daniel's fault for not giving her enough attention. Friends, once loyal, began to question her integrity. The anxiety that gnawed at her grew with each passing day as she realized the walls were closing in. One evening, she dared to confront Daniel, showing up unannounced at his door, her eyes filled with a desperate hope. "We can fix this," she pleaded, her voice quivering. "You don't have to go through with the divorce. We can start over." Daniel leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a condescending smile creeping onto his face. "Start over? Is that what you call it after betraying me with my best friend? You think I'd just sweep all of this under the rug?" He stepped back, allowing her into the living room, the coldness of the space matching the chill settling deep in his bones. Her bravado faltered as she scanned the familiar environment, framed family photos replaced by a growing collection of items, waiting to be packed and sold. "You're destroying everything. What about the kids? What example are you setting?" "An example of accountability," he shot back, intensity etched across his features. "This isn't about the kids anymore. This is about what you've done. You've shattered the very foundation of our family. I can't pretend to ignore that." Karen's demeanor shifted, anger ignited within her. "You think you're righteous, don't you? But you're tearing our family apart." Her voice rose, desperate for a foothold in the shifting ground of their relationship. "The only one tearing this family apart was you, and you did it willingly," he retorted sharply. "It's time for you to leave. Let's spare our children the sight of their parents' destruction. You've made your choice. Now, you must face the consequences." Karen stumbled back, her anger faltering under the weight of reality. She accused him of not being understanding, of showing no compassion. But Daniel remained implacable. It was his turn to dictate the terms, and she was not going to have the upper hand any longer. Days turned into weeks as the divorce hearings began, each session stripping Karen of another layer of dignity. Her pleas for reconciliation fell on deaf ears as Daniel established himself as a formidable opponent, resolute yet calm. The courtroom became a theater. Her attempts to invoke sympathy quickly turned to ashes against the concrete evidence he had orchestrated, that Karen was the architect of her own destruction. Each hearing unveiled new revelations, tearing at the remnants of her credibility. Friends who once walked alongside her began to denounce her, distancing themselves, unable to reconcile her actions with how they viewed her. Social media buzzed with commentary, and she swiftly became the subject of public ridicule. One day, as the gavel struck, the judge ruled in Daniel's favor, granting him primary custody of the children. Karen's heart sank in that moment, the gravity of her choices crashing down like a tidal wave. With each judgment, Daniel systematically dismantled the life she had constructed, the elegant facade crumbling to dust. In the following weeks, Karen confronted the stark reality of her situation. Brian, once the source of her romantic escape, abruptly distanced himself, ultimately prioritizing his reputation and social standing over their fleeting affair. He realized that he had tied his fate to a sinking ship, and concern for his personal image reigned supreme. The whispers of the community only grew louder, condemning their indiscretions, while painting Daniel as the wronged hero who had prevailed against the odds. Faced with mounting isolation, Karen began to frantically seek support from those she had alienated. But the embrace she sought was not forthcoming. Friends who once leaned on her now withdrew into silence, leaving her grappling with the consequences of her actions. Social ostracism became her new prison, a place of quiet desperation. Daniel observed it all from a distance, noting the stark transformation and recognizing the importance of his journey. He had emerged unscathed, propelled by a sense of purpose that had replaced the vulnerability that once constrained him. He had taken control of his life, crafted a future carved from resilience, and reclaimed his narrative. Finally, as winter approached, he felt a renewed sense of hope. Though the scars remained, they served as reminders of his strength, a narrative woven through betrayal, triumph, and a relentless pursuit of justice. He'd risen from the ashes of despair, embodying the cliché of a phoenix reborn, a notion infused with the hard-won victories against adversity. At the children's school holiday event, Daniel felt a quiet satisfaction wash over him. He stood amongst other parents, kids eagerly participating in festive activities. Karen's absence was palpable, the void left in the wake of her choices echoing throughout. As he watched his children laugh and play, Daniel realized that the true victory laid not in punishment of the unfaithful, but in the restoration of love and stability for those who mattered most. He filed away the last remnants of his anger as something transformed within him, a paradox of strength blossoming from hardship. The future stretched brightly before him, the horizon forever altered by the trials he faced head-on. Daniel Carter had reclaimed not just his identity, but his resolve. A man no longer shackled by betrayal. An individual unafraid to wield his power with dignity and courage. As the chill of winter enveloped Maplewood, life continued to unfold around Daniel with an unexpected sense of tranquility. The holidays approached, and he was determined to create a joyful environment for the children, Louise and Max, a time filled with warmth and laughter, free from the shadows of the past. He decorated their home, stringing lights along the roof and hanging ornaments on the tree, channeling energy into building new traditions rather than simmering in the wreckage of his old life. He organized a holiday gathering, inviting close friends who had stood by him throughout the chaos. They arrived with dishes and drinks, the atmosphere reminiscent of the joyful celebrations he once experienced with Karen. But this time, the laughter felt genuine. The burdens of betrayal had transformed into a celebration of resilience, laughter echoing off the walls as friends shared stories and reveled in the spirit of the season. Meanwhile, Karen's life spiraled further from grace. As Daniel created a nurturing home, her social isolation deepened. Attempts to rekindle friendships faltered as whispers of her affair lingered in the air like a thick fog. The shame clung to her like a shroud, and her frustrations morphed into anger, a rage that burnt internally as she reflected on the choices that solidified her downfall. Unbeknownst to Daniel, Karen had retained an attorney, determined not to concede defeat entirely. "You may have won this battle," she muttered bitterly into the phone during a private conversation, "but I will fight for my children and my dignity. I won't disappear without a trace." As the new year approached, Daniel felt an undeniable shift within him. He was no longer the man who drowned in anguish or despair. He had forged a stronger identity, one marked by clarity and purpose. Each encounter with his children rekindled hope, and he found himself caught within the embrace of their innocence. There was love and laughter, moments filled with warmth that easily brushed aside the remnants of heartbreak. On New Year's Eve, Daniel organized a small celebration at home, inviting close friends and family. As midnight approached, the excitement filled the air, and he could see the joy etched on his children's faces. He glanced around at the scene, a makeshift family, one that upheld the spirit of togetherness despite the chaos of the past. "Hey everyone," he called, raising a glass, "to new beginnings and to the people who make life worthwhile. Let's welcome this new year, filled with hope, laughter, and resilience." Cheers erupted, and as the clock struck 12, they all embraced, arms around shoulders, hearts unified in gratitude and joy. Daniel felt lighter than he had in years, the burdens of his past dissipating like smoke into the night air. Yet outside the circle of celebration, Karen plotted her comeback. The holidays had pushed her to the edge, and the moments spent in isolation left her restless. She contacted Brian, who had also endured the fallout of their affair. Despite being distanced from her, a thread of connection still lingered. She believed they might reclaim the narrative if they worked together, a warped vindication to counter Daniel's newfound bliss. Over coffee, they exchanged grievances. "You need to understand, she is completely painting you as the villain," Karen voiced, frustration coating her words. "But we can change that narrative. I'll fight for my children, and you can too." "I'm not sure if I want to be involved in this anymore," Brian lamented, fingers nervously tapping the table. "I've lost everything, my reputation, my friends. I can't take the heat anymore." Karen sensed his hesitance and leaned in closer. "Don't you want to fight back? To show everyone that we still have power? Think about it. Together we can make them regret everything." Brian's brow furrowed, caught between loyalty and self-preservation. "Karen, I understand your pain, but revenge isn't the answer. It will only drag us down further." "Coward!" she shot back, anger spiking. She had felt the fire of her desperation flare anew. She needed to strike back, to reclaim some semblance of control over her life. But rebuilding their connection proved challenging as Brian himself began to recognize the futility of their past. The illusion of grandeur they had shared broke apart under the weight of raw truth. He began to distance himself, finding solace in his own reflection while contemplating his tarnished values. Maybe they both had lost a sense of who they were during those feverish moments of deceit. As the winter deepened, Daniel's life continued its ascent. Intending to protect the sanctity of his children, he invested time and effort in creating an environment where they could thrive, away from the tumult wrought by their mother. They spent weekends outdoors, engaging in activities that fostered their bond, allowing Daniel to reclaim the joy that had once been shadowed by betrayal. One afternoon, as they bundled up to sled down a nearby hill, Louise turned to her father, her small hands gripping the sled's edge. "Dad, I'm really happy we can spend time together like this. I missed you being with us." Daniel's heart soared with affirmation. "I missed you too, sweetheart. And I promise, no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you." As they raced down the snow-covered slope, laughter filling the air, Daniel felt fortified against the remnants of Karen's past attempts to divide their family. He was becoming the parent he always sought to be. The wholesome moments carved into their lives became both armor and solace, dismissing the weight of negativity the outside world may cast upon them. Back in her secluded corner, Karen wallowed in the reality of her isolation. Reeling from failed friendships and a fractured life, she contemplated her next move. As the new year unfolded, it became evident that unraveling Daniel's resolute path of renewal was not achievable through cries for sympathy alone. Instead, she began devising a method to reignite her relationship with their children. Crafting sweet notes from secret admirers, she placed them within their school packs, each one containing subtle manipulation aimed at curating sympathy and outrage against Daniel. The plan was to sow doubt and discord, but she failed to realize the greater depth of connection Daniel had nurtured over time. Louise stumbled upon one of the notes, her innocent heart unprepared for the emotional storm it initiated. She rushed home after school, curiosity bursting at the seams. "Dad, I got this letter. Is Mom okay? Why would she write this? Is she sad?" Caught off guard, Daniel knelt beside her, reading the note. A strange concoction of twisted emotions, riddled with half-truths and insinuation. His heart sank for a moment. He understood the effect such manipulation could wield against innocent minds. "Louise, your mother is feeling lost, but I want you to know she loves you," he explained, choosing his words with care as he battled rising anger. And sometimes adults make choices that can hurt someone else. That's what happened between your mother and I. "But Dad, I want to see her. Can we go visit?" she insisted, eyes begging for connection to her lost mother. "Sweetheart, we'll work on when to see her, I promise," he soothed, rubbing her back. "It's just really important that you understand what's right and wrong. And I want you to feel safe and loved here." Daniel knew that rebuilding connections could not hinge on manipulation, only honest dialogue. And for now, he would keep his family intact, cultivating a safe haven where open communication thrived, a bastion of support and love against the impending storm that was sure to follow from Karen's embers of desperation. As the weeks passed, the residue of loyalty to his children reinforced his determination to weather the waves of conflict that encroached. Daniel remained steadfast, unwilling to falter or surrender to the shadows of the past. With every wave of support from friends and family, he found himself emboldened to face whatever came his way. One fateful evening, as winter began to wane into early spring, Karen requested a meeting. Her tone was different this time, devoid of the bitterness that had characterized her previous attempts. Could this be an opportunity for a new chapter? Daniel accepted, cautiously optimistic. As they sat across from one another in a coffee shop, the tension hung palpably in the air. Would this conversation mark the beginning of rebuilding? Or merely another cycle of deceit? "Daniel, I know I've made terrible mistakes," she began, her voice softening. "But I've been thinking about everything, and I want to do better, for myself and for the kids." He met her gaze, searching for sincerity yet guarded against the remnants of their shared history. "What does better mean, Karen?" "I need to know you truly want to change." Her eyes glimmered with desperation, a flicker of truth slicing through the facade. "It means I want to be present. I want to support our children. I know I hurt you, but I want a chance to build something new." Daniel leaned back, weighing her words. While the glimmer of hope danced in front of them, trust had been severely broken. This new footing felt fresh, yet the scars would take longer to heal. "I'll consider it, but this needs to be real," he responded finally, his tone firm. "The past can't dictate the future anymore. I have no tolerance for more deception." Karen nodded. Understanding lined her features. "I realize that now. I want to be involved with the kids and hopefully earn your trust over time." As they sat across from each other, the shadows of their previous lives lingered just beyond their conversation. But thin bridges of hope and understanding flickered amidst the chaos, and breathing fresh air into their complexities took precedent over lingering resentment. For Daniel, this was only the beginning. Whatever the outcome, he was resolved to protect his children above all else and navigate this dangerous terrain with newfound strength. They would build a new dynamic, one where hope carried the weight of unresolved pasts, but also paved a brighter path forward. The remnants of pain could either bind them in endless cycles or ignite a journey towards healing, a journey he was ready to embrace, step by step. Spring began to emerge in Maplewood, the days lengthening and the air growing warm with the promise of renewal. As the frost melted away, so too did some of the lingering tension between Daniel and Karen. Their tentative truce offered a glimmer of hope, though it was tempered by the awareness that trust would not be easily restored. Meeting regularly, they navigated the delicate landscape of co-parenting, focusing on what was best for Louise and Max. Over time, Karen worked on reestablishing her role in their children's lives. She attended school events and participated in extracurricular activities, slowly inserting herself back into the family unit. Daniel watched warily as she carefully treaded the waters, noting her shift from the erratic behavior that led to the affair. There were moments of genuine connection, kind gestures laced with affection for their children. Yet, there was also the continual reminder of the distance created by betrayal. One afternoon, Daniel found himself sitting with Louise and Max at the quaint town park, a popular spot bustling with families enjoying the sunny day. "Dad, can we go see Mom after lunch?" Max asked, his hopeful expression pulling at Daniel's heartstrings. Daniel hesitated, momentarily thrown by his son's eagerness. "Maybe tomorrow," Daniel replied gently. "You know your mother is trying to understand better how to be a part of our lives." Max nodded, but Daniel could see the uncertainty lingering in his eyes. As the children played on the swings, Daniel reflected on how navigating this new reality with Karen would require patience and careful consideration. It was not just about the damage of the past. It was about fostering a healthier environment for the kids. Later that evening, he received a text from Karen, asking if they could meet to discuss co-parenting strategies. Tension knotted in his stomach. He had been cautious, aware that any semblance of familial unity was fragile, his guard still raised against potential manipulation. They met at a small cafe, the atmosphere light but charged with unsaid words. As the coffee steamed between them, Karen took a breath as if gathering courage. "I know I've made mistakes, Daniel, but I truly want to support you as a co-parent. Can we set some boundaries that work for both of us?" "Boundaries are essential, Karen," he replied, his voice measured, "but they need to be respected. I'm willing to communicate about the kids, but any deviation or dishonesty will strain this again. We have the chance to rebuild, but it needs to be genuine." Karen's nod was firm, her eyes steady. "I understand that the trust is gone, and while I can't erase the past, I can promise you I'm committed to being honest moving forward. I don't want to jeopardize what we could create for the kids." As they discussed their plans, the tension began to ease, and Daniel found himself reevaluating the possibilities of a future that included Karen in a more supportive and healthy role. However, skepticism lingered in the back of his mind, a protective instinct that wouldn't allow him to let down his guard too soon. With the children thriving in the warmth of spring, Daniel sought to take the opportunity to bond with them in new ways. He enrolled Louise in a local art class and signed Max up for soccer. Those weekends became a whirlwind of activity filled with laughter and artistry, fostering connections that fortified their family unit amid the changing tides. One Saturday afternoon, Daniel observed the children play in the yard. The sunlight danced across their faces, creating an aura of joy. "Should we have a picnic in the park next week?" he suggested, excited for their bonding and the new traditions they could form. "Can we invite Mom?" Max asked hopefully, a sparkle of innocence in his voice. Daniel felt his heart wrench, a mixture of longing and trepidation as he mulled it over. The thought of including Karen simultaneously threatened his hard-earned progress, yet revealed the depth of their son's desire for a complete family. "Sure, if it feels right," he replied cautiously. The next week arrived with a tentative air. Daniel texted Karen the picnic plan, and to his surprise, she responded enthusiastically. As the day approached, Daniel prepared himself for the emotional whirlpool that awaited. It was evident that this would be another test of their volatile relationship. On the day of the picnic, Daniel arrived early to set up at the park, noting the familiar sights, the same verdant trees and playful children. The sun shone brightly and the ambiance felt almost surreal, hanging heavy with an air of expectation. When Karen arrived, the tension in his chest tightened. She stepped out of her car, a smile painting her face, bringing along a basket filled with homemade treats. "It's lovely here, isn't it?" she remarked, her tone pleasantly upbeat. "It is," Daniel agreed cautiously, watching as Louise and Max dashed toward their mother, enveloping her in excited embraces. For a moment, he felt a flicker of what had once been, a family unified, albeit marred by the bitter taste of their shared history. As they settled onto the picnic blanket, they began to enjoy meals filled with laughter. Daniel couldn't help but observe how significantly Karen was putting in effort, sharing stories about her school events, asking the children about their interests, and even trying to engage with Daniel in light conversation. For a heartbeat, all seemed right, but darkness loomed nearby. However, as the day progressed, Daniel's internal alarms reawakened when he noticed the way Karen's attention fluctuated. Was it sincere, or was it merely a performance? The moments of authentic connection felt tainted by the residue of their past. Halfway through the afternoon, Max ran toward the nearby playground, eager to test out the slides, and Louise followed closely behind. Daniel felt an impulse to intervene, but he saw Karen's eyes sparkle with delight as she watched their children, and he couldn't help but allow a small grin to emerge. As he stood, stretching his legs, he heard a whisper behind him. "Daniel," Karen began quietly, this time her tone more serious. "I know this day means a lot to the kids. Can we keep having moments like this? For them?" He hesitated before responding, weighing the sincerity in her eyes against the moment's context. "Improvement takes time. You need to prove you're committed to this. I'm cautious, but willing to see where this goes." "Thank you," she said, her voice tinged with an earnestness that felt refreshing. "Honestly, I want to be a better person for them. And I want this family to feel whole." As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting everything in golden tones, Daniel allowed flickers of hope to replace the skepticism within him. While the road would inevitably be rocky, the essence of their children's laughter resonated within him, reminding him that every effort counted. Days stretched as spring transformed into summer, and their co-parenting dynamics began to settle into a rhythm that, while unorthodox, fostered an unfamiliar sense of unity. Meetings evolved. Check-ins became casual dinners focused on the kids, creating an unexpected camaraderie as both parents worked to structure guidelines that honored their children's needs while navigating the debris of their fractured past. Karen slowly began to mend her relationships within the community. An awareness of her own need for change started to shift perceptions around her, allowing others to see glimpses of her potential for redemption. They still watched closely, waiting for any sign of her reverting to old habits. But there was a flicker of determination, both in her and Daniel, as they worked to create a nurturing environment for Louise and Max. And yet, in moments of quiet reflection, Daniel continued to grapple with the lingering fear that this newfound stability might shatter at any moment. A recurrent ghost haunting his thoughts, testing his resolve. Could Karen sustain this new path? Only time would reveal the truth. But he no longer felt the exuberance of hope alone. Alongside it simmered an ironclad resolve. The past may cast a long shadow, yet Daniel was prepared to confront the challenges ahead, standing firm for the sake of his children and this unexpected chance for growth, both as individuals and as a family. The light of reconciliation glimmered in the distance, ready to blaze the way for renewal beneath the warmth of the approaching summer sun. As summer's warmth enveloped Maplewood, the dynamics of Daniel and Karen's relationship evolved yet again. The sun-drenched days brought a sense of normalcy that the family hadn't felt in what seemed like a lifetime. The children flourished under the new arrangement, relishing the moments spent with both parents and for Daniel, Witnessing their happiness sparked a renewed commitment to fostering a healthy co-parenting environment. They established a system where Daniel and Karen took turns planning family outings. Though the nature of those outings was still marked by the remnants of unresolved tensions, parents and children alike learned to navigate the nuances of togetherness. They ventured to amusement parks, picnics at the lakeside, and even simple backyard BBQs that had become a staple of their summer weekends. Each event, while layered with the complexity of their past, created pathways towards healing and growth. One Saturday, they attended the county fair, a lively event bustling with laughter, games, and vibrant lights. The excitement was palpable as Louise and Max tugged eagerly at Daniel's arms, leading him toward a dizzying array of rides and attractions. He marveled at their enthusiasm, their laughter echoing in the air. "Can we go on the Ferris wheel?" Louise begged, her eyes wide with excitement. Karen, walking just a few paces behind, caught Daniel's gaze. They shared a moment of silent understanding that blossomed into reluctant teamwork. "Sure, let's do it," Daniel replied, a wave of genuine happiness washing over him as they approached the ride. As they climbed into the gondola and nestled against one another, Louise squealed in delight. The ride began to ascend, revealing a stunning panoramic view of the fairgrounds. The thrill of the heights contrasted with the emotional roller coaster of their shared history. But for a fleeting moment, Daniel felt as though they were simply a family enjoying an afternoon together. No past traumas lingering to cast shadows over their joy. "Look at the views," Max shouted, the sheer exuberance radiating from him as they reached the top. Daniel smiled, reminded of how much had changed over the past few months. Their fragile alliance held promise. For the first time since all the upheaval began, Daniel permitted himself to imagine a future where he and Karen could engage as co-parents without the weight of betrayal stealing moments of joy. As they descended from the ride, laughter ringing in his ears, and the children tugging impatiently to try the next attraction, he felt a glimmer of optimism spark within him, cautiously fanning to life. But just as Daniel began to settle into the new dynamics, a text arrived that brought a gust of chilling reality. It was from a mutual friend, Sarah, who informed him that rumors about Karen had resurfaced, whispers implying she was rekindling her relationship with Brian. The news struck Daniel like a jolt of electricity, and the feelings he had worked so hard to suppress bubbled forth once again. Anger, betrayal, confusion. That evening, as the family returned home, Daniel found it difficult to concentrate. He watched Karen prepare dinner while attentively helping the children with their homework. She exuded patience and warmth, and yet he couldn't shake the anxiety gnawing at him. What if she was still the same woman who had jeopardized everything for a fleeting thrill? Once the children were tucked in, Daniel confronted her in the living room, determination flaring in his chest. "We need to talk," he declared, his tone firm but cautious. "Is everything okay?" Karen asked, concern etching her features. She sensed the tension. "I heard rumors today about you and Brian," he said, leaning against the doorframe to maintain distance, but protect the growing intensity of emotion churning within. "Are you considering going back to him?" Karen's response froze in her throat. The air thickened with tension as uncertainty shifted across her face. "No, Dan," she finally said, her voice trembling. "That's not true. I've been focusing on our kids and trying to what?" he interrupted, frustration spilling over. "Rebuild or destroy everything again. I can't believe you'd even think that." Her defensiveness flared, making the distance between them feel insurmountable. "You know I've been working hard to be present, to make this family work. I want us to co-parent successfully, to build trust again. Then why does it feel like every time we take a step forward, there's another rumor ready to pull us 2 steps back?" Daniel's voice softened, less about blaming and more about an underlying inquisition. "I was vulnerable, Dan. I messed up," Karen admitted, exasperation evident in her frustration at his unwillingness to let go of fear. "But I'm not going back. I'm working to understand what went wrong. This time, I want to be better. For myself and for all of us." Despite her words, the shadows of doubt clouded Daniel's heart. "It's just, I can't trust you fully. Every time you say better, I hear echoes of the past. Karen took a step closer, sincerity glimmering in her eyes. Trust is built over time, isn't it? I'm here, serious about changing, and I can't do this alone. It takes two willing to foster a new beginning. The intensity fell away for a moment, vulnerability overshadowing suspicion. I want to believe you, Daniel replied, his voice barely a whisper now. But the scars still hurt. Every day, I remember what it felt like to have everything ripped away. For a moment, silence enveloped them. Then Karen spoke softly. So do I, Dan. I may have caused that pain, but I refuse to accept defeat. I want to earn your trust back, but it will take us both moving forward, together. His heart twisted at her words. Doubt intermingled with longing. Daniel recognized that her earnestness revealed a more profound truth. The path toward healing would be met with moments of uncertainty and fear. Yet somehow, within that turmoil, there lay potential for reconnection. The following weeks ebbed and flowed as their newfound dialogue blossomed, honesty merging with cautious enthusiasm. Each interaction felt like a tentative dance. Step forward, hesitant pause, and then another step into the unknown. They remained driven by the children, but became increasingly aware of their own desires to make things better. One afternoon, after a particularly pleasant day at a local farmer's market, Karen approached Daniel as they were packing the car. You know, I've been thinking, what if we started having family meetings? Something structured where we can discuss our feelings, set goals, and make plans together. Daniel regarded her with interest. While the idea seemed almost too simplistic to navigate the complexities of the past, the sincerity in her gaze prompted him to consider it. That could work, as long as we both commit to being open and honest. Absolutely, she replied, a spark of hope illuminating her features. It's time to build something new. With the children's assistance, they scheduled their first family meeting for the following Saturday. The anticipation of discussing the new family dynamics brought both excitement and anxiety, feelings Daniel absorbed with an open heart, while remaining grounded in the understanding that reconciliation would require patience. Saturday morning arrived, the sun brightening their cozy living room. The children bounced with anticipation, while Daniel felt the slight weight of history pressing at his back. As they sat in a circle on the floor, the air pulsed with energy, each member buzzing with the potential of new relationships. Today, we're here to talk about how we can work together as a family, show love and support to one another, and share any feelings we have, Karen began, her voice steady as she glanced between the kids and Daniel. Louise raised her hand, eyes sparkling with earnestness. I think family meetings are a great idea. I want us to be happy together. Max nodded vigorously. Yeah, and can we have snacks during the meetings? Daniel chuckled, easing into the moment. Absolutely. We'll have snacks, buddy. The agreement stands. As the discussions unfolded, Daniel found himself amazed by their willingness to share hopes and dreams for the future. The topics ranged from planning family trips to exploring the educational goals for the kids, and gradually, like the melting ice of winter, an initial wave of distrust subsided into a gentle current of connection. In those moments, Daniel began to let go of the confines of past fears, daring to confront the notion that he might be capable of being happy again. The joy in the room resonated, growing louder with every shared laugh and every bit of dialogue that echoed their commitment to remain a united front for the children. By the end of their first family meeting, Daniel felt a fresh breath of hope guiding him forward. While the past remained a part of their collective narrative, the prospect of reclaiming joy began to overshadow it. They were taking steps toward rebuilding, not just as individuals, but as a cohesive family, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun dipped lower on that beautiful Saturday evening, Daniel embraced the burgeoning sense of optimism, a feeling he hadn't felt in ages. Standing together, hand in hand, they forged ahead into the future, a path paved with shadows of the past, but illuminated by the potential for healing and love. With Karen and the kids by his side, the essence of hope seemed to bloom anew. As summer unfolded in Maplewood, the momentum established during their family meetings began to create tangible changes in Daniel and Karen's dynamic. In the comfort of their newfound cooperative spirit, they each took the initiative to engage more deeply with the children. Excursions became routine and friendly conversations flourished between parents, weaving a delicate tapestry of connection that didn't eradicate the past, but allowed a genuine effort toward forward movement instead. One evening, as they huddled together around the dining table for dinner, the atmosphere brimmed with laughter. The rich aroma of spaghetti wafted through the air as Karen playfully argued with Max about whose turn it was to choose the next movie for family movie night. "Max, we've seen The Lion King 2 times already this week. Can we please pick something else?" Louise interjected, tossing her hair over her shoulder dramatically. "In a minute, it's my turn," Max retorted with playfulness that earned him an eye roll from his sister. "All right, I suppose I can help you out here," Daniel chimed in, a smile spreading across his face. "How about we compromise and let Max pick one movie, but then Louise will pick the next? Maybe something can be new for both of you." The kids cheered, and Karen's eyes sparkled, her heart swelling with gratitude as she watched the effortless camaraderie that enveloped the table. "See?" she said, glancing at Daniel, who maintained a steady, friendly gaze. "If we keep this attitude, our family meetings will have all the solution we need." Dinner ended on a high note, punctuated by the decision to watch a family comedy that left them all in stitches. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt the lightness of joy fill the void that had once been a cacophony of betrayal and loss. However, as they settled down to watch the movie, a subtle undercurrent of uncertainty gnawed at Daniel. Just as he began to rid himself of the heavy burdens that had weighed on him, a sudden thought cut through the warmth of the moment. Was this peace sustainable? That doubt settled deep as the evening grew late. After the kids went to bed, Daniel found himself drifting into the living room and climbing into his favorite chair with a glass of wine. The flickering light from the TV bathed the room in a gentle glow. But instead of tranquility, his thoughts spiraled inward, spinning around Karen's past mistakes and their subsequent impact on their children. Could he truly trust this new version of her? The one that emerged through the hard-earned efforts of their family meetings? His introspection was interrupted by the sound of Karen entering the room. She walked in quietly, hesitating as she picked up on Daniel's mood. "Hey," she said softly, settling into the chair opposite him. "Everything okay?" He exhaled, raking a hand through his hair. "I'm just thinking." His gaze drifted back to the flickering screen. "I wonder if this time is real. Am I setting myself up for failure by believing this could last?" Karen nodded thoughtfully, taking in his vulnerability. "I get it. Trusting each other isn't just something we can flip a switch on. It takes time. But I really do want to be better for you and for our kids. Then how do we ensure this isn't just a phase? How can we avoid the pitfalls of the past?" Daniel leaned forward, craving authenticity in their dialogue. "I think we should revisit our family meetings regularly. Maybe even set up monthly goals for us to check in on. Not just as parents, but as individuals," Karen proposed, the spark of determination lighting her features. "We can't wait for the past to catch up to us. It's about forging a stronger foundation now." Her insight resonated with him. She was right. They needed structure amidst the unfolding transformations, which would help navigate the uncertainty swirling within them. "That sounds promising," he replied, feeling the tension in his shoulders ease. "It would give us a clear focus on rebuilding and holding ourselves accountable." "Absolutely. It won't always be easy, but I believe we can do this," Karen affirmed. Just as the evening settled around them, their conversation took on a more personal angle, reflecting their struggles and aspirations. They began to discuss moments they remembered fondly from their early years together, small details that hinted at the depth of their relationship before it crumbled. Daniel spoke of a road trip to the coast, remembering the sun-drenched laughter shared during the countless attempts to take selfies against the backdrop of crashing waves. Karen reflected on lazy weekends spent in their first apartment, plopping on the couch with microwave popcorn and terrible reality TV. Amidst the laughter, the nostalgic reflections bridged gaps, rekindling hidden warmth deep in their hearts. Over the following weeks, they introduced family meetings with more intentional structure, focusing on experiences and communication. They discussed hopes and goals, where they saw themselves in the coming months, both personally and as co-parents. Daniel marveled at how swiftly things transformed. They established routines that enabled them to operate in a shared space without the tense undercurrents of their former lives. The children thrived on the continuity, reveling in the awareness of having two parents who were slowly but surely learning to respect each other once more. However, as summer progressed towards fall, an early morning phone call disrupted Daniel's sense of stability. It was a call from a familiar number, Jennifer, his lawyer. Her tone was serious, leaving little room for pretense. "Daniel, we need to discuss something important regarding Karen." He felt a knot form in his stomach. Is it about the custody arrangements? Not exactly. There's been a development. I've received reports that Brian has been around and attempting to reinsert himself in this situation. Karen seems caught up in some conversations with him. Why would she return to him after everything that happened? Daniel interrupted, alarm flooding his senses. The past doesn't always stay buried. I suggest you touch base with her immediately. Transparency is essential, especially considering the kids. The call coaxed out waves of anxiety, each echoing Karen's past decisions. Daniel paced around the living room, feeling an old dread resurface. Could she really be spiraling back to Brian when they had worked so hard to reestablish the family? Just as he contemplated his next move, the door swung open and Karen entered. A look of confusion plastered on her face. "You look tense," she commented, her unease rising after exchanging glances filled with unsaid words. With no time to hesitate, he steeled himself. "I just got a call from Jennifer. She mentioned Brian has been trying to make his way back into your life." "Is that true?" The color drained from Karen's face and she faltered, scrambling for words. I didn't think he could matter to you anymore. Things have been so good between us, Daniel. That should be your priority too. Have you even told me the truth about his local presence?" Daniel's heart raced, the anxiety morphing into frustration. "I swear to you, I wasn't in contact with him. But I saw him once this summer at the store. I didn't think anything of it. I was trying to manage so many things," she stammered, looking for his understanding. "What do you mean, manage?" he pressed, feeling the walls close in as panic gripped him. "We've been building something here, a new life for the kids. And now you're telling me you let him continue to linger in your world?" In that moment, the veil of optimism he had clung to felt dangerously thin, the flicker of hope overshadowed by the dark resurgence of his insecurities. "I made a mistake." "But it doesn't mean I want to go back there," Karen pleaded, desperation lining her voice. "Please believe me, Daniel. I want to be present for you and the kids. I'm committed to us." "Committing to us means not letting the past claw its way back in. I need to know you're making choices that further isolate that part of your life, not conversely." Tension escalated between them, spiraled into uncomfortable silence, and left Daniel lost in the growing storm of potential loss. The knowledge that their fragile peace now teetered on the edge of uncertainty felt like a chasm expanding beneath his feet. As he stepped away, he realized it was not only Karen who needed to confront the remnants of her past. He needed to grapple with his fears as well. The journey of healing, he grasped, had taken root in their commitment to present and future, rather than the urge to dwell in the past. "Let's talk about this," he finally said, voice calmer though tightly wound. "This isn't over, not yet. Take a moment to remember how far we've come, but also recognize the peril that still lurks. We can't let shadows create separations now." Karen nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I understand. I don't want to lose you or the kids. I'm ready to fight for this." In that charged atmosphere of uncertainty, They recognized the path ahead would require resilience, collaboration, and a renewed commitment to prioritizing their family's well-being. They could either sink or rise, and they both resolved to face the challenges head-on, united in their resolve to turn toward hope once more, this time with eyes wide open. And as uncertainty loomed ahead, Daniel found strength in the decision to confront the boundaries of his fears instead of evading them, setting a course towards healing together, layer upon layer, step by step, focused on the future as they forged through the shadows of their past. Following the confrontation about Brian, the atmosphere in Daniel and Karen's home grew tense. Daniel felt the ground beneath him shift, uncertainty reigniting as anxiety swirled in his mind. The shadows of betrayal danced ominously on the edges of their fragile reunion, and he couldn't shake the worry that everything they'd battled to restore could slip through their fingers like sand. Determined to confront these issues head-on, Daniel proposed another family meeting. He believed this would grant them a chance to openly discuss their concerns and facilitate a dialogue about trust, transparency, and the presence of external influences threatening their newfound stability. But beneath Daniel's resolve lay a stirring heaviness. Would they be able to navigate these jagged edges together? As Saturday arrived, Daniel prepared his thoughts, while Karen paced their living room, visibly anxious. The kids were awake, charged with the excitement of the weekend, innocent and blissfully unaware of the tumult brewing above them. "Hey team," Daniel called out to Louise and Max as they bounded into the living room, their excitement infectious. "We're going to have a family meeting today. It'll only take a little bit of time, but it's important." Max tilted his head, puzzlement crossing his face. "Are we in trouble?" "No, buddy," Karen responded quickly, brushing a hand through his hair. "This is just about us all talking together as a family." After inviting the kids to sit cross-legged on the floor, Daniel took a calming breath. "First, I want to acknowledge that we've made a lot of progress as a family. We've had some fun times, built stronger connections, and gotten to know each other again. But there are things we need to address to keep moving forward. It feels good when we're all together," Louise chimed in, her small voice brimming with enthusiasm. "Can we keep having fun?" "Yes, absolutely," Daniel replied, shooting her a smile before returning to the matter at hand. "But I think we need to talk about other things, too. Things that can affect how happy we all are. Karen and I, well, we've had some past difficulties. We need to be honest about how we feel." The unease hung heavily in the air as Karen took a deep breath. She shifted slightly, locking her gaze on Daniel, acknowledging the reality they faced. "I understand we've all been working hard, but trust is essential. We need to be transparent with one another. Max," she added, turning her attention to her son, "can you help us with this?" Max bobbed his head, full of earnestness. "What do you mean?" "Well, if you're ever feeling uncomfortable or not happy, it's okay to tell us. The same goes for all of us, including Dad and me," Karen explained. She shot Daniel a look that asked for solidarity, and he nodded subtly, urging her to press onward. "That's true. It's important we can express our feelings without fear. But there are also outside forces to consider," Daniel inserted. "I found out that Brian is still around, and that worries me. I need you to know that any connection to him might make things harder for all of us." A hush fell over the room, the children's eyes darting between their parents, absorbing the seriousness of the conversation. Karen's brow furrowed as she faced Daniel with a slight tremor in her voice. "I want to reassure you that I'm not going back to him. I promise you I'm committed to making this family work. I want us to heal together. For the kids." Daniel met her gaze, searching for sincerity in her eyes. "I appreciate that, but I need to know you'll stand strong in resisting any temptation. It's crucial if we're going to build trust back. We can't allow external pressures to seep into our home again." "Maybe we can create a plan together," Louise suggested, her voice cutting through the tension. "Like an idea box, where we can write down things we want to talk about or anything that seems scary. That way, it's not just about finding problems." "Good idea," Daniel exclaimed, the warmth of Louise's perspective igniting a glimmer of hope. "We can use it in our next meetings, and when something feels off, we'll address it right then. It will keep communication open." "That can help us avoid misunderstandings," Karen added, the brightness of the idea rallying her spirits. Kids, we can all contribute. Create a family space where thoughts are welcome. As the children nodded, their enthusiasm rekindled. The atmosphere shifted for the better. They spent the next few moments brainstorming ideas for their family ideas box, jotting them down enthusiastically on scraps of paper that they eagerly folded and stacked away in a designated container. But even amid that newfound energy, Daniel still felt the gnawing of apprehension. Back in the safety of their home, he realized he needed to address his feelings surrounding Brian's resurfacing presence directly with Karen. After this meeting, I think we should discuss how you plan to handle things regarding Brian if he reaches out to you, Daniel stated. I need clarity on this issue. As they wrapped up the meeting, he saw the kids bonfire with excitement, but in his heart, unease remained. Even with the positive energy surrounding their gathering, the specter of betrayal loomed. Later that evening, when the kids were nestled in bed after a long day, Daniel turned toward Karen, the weight of the day's discussions finally sinking in. So, how do you plan to handle Brian? What's your stance? Karen took a moment to compose herself, addressing him sincerely. I don't want him back in my life, Dan. I know how destructive it was, and I realized I have everything I want right here, with you and the kids. But if he reaches out, it's going to take some real strength to ignore him. I will need your support. A wave of relief washed over Daniel, mixed with the prick of lingering doubt. You really mean that? No backtracking? I swear to you, Dan, I'm committed to making our family work and keeping Brian out of our lives, Karen reassured him, reaching out for his hand. You can ask me anything. Just promise to trust that I'm in your corner. Daniel held her gaze and felt the flicker of reassurance in her words. He was painfully aware that every ounce of trust needed to be rebuilt. But at this moment, she felt sincere. We'll take this road together then, he whispered. We're a family working towards rebuilding, not a couple torn by past mistakes. Days turned into weeks, and with the implementation of their family plan, they navigated criticisms and challenges with more confidence. A safety net began to form around them, allowing Daniel to rest a little easier, though the specter of Brian occasionally stirred latent anxieties. Then, one Saturday afternoon, as they prepared for another family meeting to check in, Daniel's phone buzzed with an unexpected notification. The message was from a number he didn't recognize, but it sent a jolt through his system. Hey Dan, it's Brian. We need to talk. The words hung in the air, pulsating with the power of everything Daniel had worked to achieve over the past months. A cocktail of emotions churned within him. Shock, anger, determination, fear, all jostling for dominance as the memories returned with a fierce vengeance. As Karen entered the room, she saw the look on his face. What's wrong? Brian just texted me, he replied, voice steady despite the turbulence within. He wants to talk. The resolve returned to her features, reflected in the steadiness of her eyes. Then we will handle it. We have to keep moving forward together, as a family. With the day looming ahead, Daniel realized that the time for hiding in the shadows had come to an end. Summoning his strength, he decided on a plan. Together, they would face the challenge head-on, determined to protect what they had rebuilt. You're right, he said, shifting his mind from anxiety to determination. Let's handle this together. No more stepping back. It's time to confront whatever he throws at us and push forward. And as he prepared to respond to Brian's message, Daniel felt renewed purpose grind its way into his resolve. They faced the path ahead together, even the uncertainty poised beyond the horizon. In the heart between trauma and strength, they'd forge their way, come what may. The echoes of their journey would not define them, but the choices they made in the moments to come would. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting vibrant hues across the evening sky, Daniel steeled himself for what was to come. His heart pounded in tandem with the relentless tick of the clock as he prepared to respond to Brian's message. Time had never felt so suspended, and the weight of the impending confrontation hung heavily in the air. What are you thinking? Karen asked, concern etched on her features, as she observed Daniel's furrowed brow. I'm going to confront him directly, Daniel replied, his voice steady but edged with determination. We've built so much in these last few months. I won't let him undermine our progress. I'll make it clear he needs to stay out of our lives. Are you sure? I mean, dealing with Brian could provoke him, Karen cautioned, her voice rising slightly in warning. We don't know how he'll react. I can't let this go unanswered, Daniel insisted. It's time we both draw a line. We've come too far to allow his presence to create more doubt. Karen nodded. The weight of the reality settled in her thoughts. This was a moment they needed to confront together. Daniel began typing, his fingers moving quickly over the screen as he carefully crafted his response. What do you want, Brian? He hit send, the crispness of his words striking a balance between assertiveness and caution. The reply came almost immediately, sending another jolt through him. We need to talk about what's going on. It's important. Daniel clenched his jaw, the frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. He took a deep breath, contemplating the best way to navigate this. He glanced at Karen, whose eyes pleaded for safety and resolution. I'll tell him to meet us at the cafe tomorrow. It's public. It'll be safer, Daniel decided, typing out another response. Meet me at the corner cafe tomorrow at 3 p.m. Moments passed, but then he received a confirmation from Brian. See you then. As they put the children to bed that night, the tension lingering between Daniel and Karen felt thicker than ever. The simple act of storytime transitioned to anxious silence as they tucked the kids in, each lost in their thoughts about the confrontation that loomed the next day. Once their children were asleep, they convened in the living room, the room softly illuminated by a single lamp that cast cozy shadows across their worry-laden expressions. Do you think he'll come? Karen asked, her voice laced with concern. Daniel considered this, feeling a weight in his gut. He'll come. He's been lingering, and he'll see this as a chance. He thinks he can stir up trouble. He was so reckless before, Daniel. We can't underestimate how desperate he may be. Karen leaned forward, her forehead creased with worry. I'll keep that in mind, he said, reassuring her with a firm nod. But I won't allow him to intimidate us. We've worked hard for this. You keep yourself focused on the kids and our goals. I'll handle Brian. Karen reached out, squeezing his hand. Just promise me that you'll be careful. He knows everything about us and how to manipulate. I promise. And if things escalate, we can leave, he affirmed, feeling a simmer of confidence within him. But if I can help clarify the boundaries, I will. The following afternoon arrived in a blur, work and family matters fading into the background as anticipation coiled around Daniel's thoughts like a tight knot. The day felt like the calm before a storm. The setting sun was an ominous specter looming over the horizon. At the corner cafe, nestled in a quaint part of town, the atmosphere was busy and energetic, filled with patrons sipping coffee and exchanging stories. Daniel arrived early, scanning the faces of the people around him, heart racing as he waited for Brian's arrival. Minutes ticked by, each one amplifying the tension building in Daniel's chest. He ran a hand through his hair, mentally rehearsing the conversation in preparation for confrontation. He had to be assertive, while also remaining cautious. He couldn't let his emotions cloud his judgment. When Brian finally walked through the entrance, Daniel felt the rush of unwelcome energy, the way one anticipates storm clouds on the horizon. Brian's demeanor appeared composed, but his casual swagger reeked of the arrogance that had once drawn Karen away. Nice place you picked, Brian said, looking around, his tone dismissive. Let's get straight to it, Daniel replied, cutting him off. I don't want to waste time. You need to leave Karen and our family alone. Brian's eyes narrowed, dismissing Daniel's words with a wave of his hand. You think you can just wipe the slate clean? She'll always have memories of us, memories you can't erase. Those memories brought nothing but chaos and pain. She's moved on, and so should you. We're working toward a better family dynamic, and you threaten that. The tension between them crackled, palpable in the air. Daniel could feel his blood rushing as he kept his eyes locked on Brian's, unwilling to show the vulnerability that gnawed at him. Call it whatever you want, Brian sneered, leaning closer. You're too trusting, thinking she'll stay with you. One slip-up, and I could remind her why we were good together. If you think she'll return to you after everything, you're mistaken, Daniel narrowed his eyes. This is her choice. My family? And if you think I'll allow you to interfere, you're gravely mistaken. I won't stand by as you turn her back into someone who hurts all of us." Brian leaned back, seemingly unfazed by Daniel's words. But the tension in the air was palpable, a storm breaching the horizon. "Hey, look, I'm not here to make threats. Just know that if she's unhappy, she might find her way back to me," he said, attempting to mask the tension in his tone. "People don't forget those who gave them excitement, Dan. Don't overestimate your role." Daniel felt the anger pulse through him, burning hot yet contained. "You don't have to be part of our lives anymore. You should respect her decisions, even the ones you don't agree with. If you don't stay away, I'll make it public. I won't allow you to hurt anyone else." "Publicity won't deter me," Brian spat, frustration seeping into his voice. "You can't control everything. We both know that. She could come back. You can't change that." Daniel's fists clenched at his sides, the confrontation escalating in conflict. "You think lashing out will achieve anything? This isn't a game. She will not return to someone who betrayed her trust, and you will not drive a wedge back into our family. Stop lurking around." "Move on!" Brian's composure faltered, the facade wavering as he took a deep breath, clearly rattled by the conviction in Daniel's voice. "This key of control you think you hold, it won't stick forever," he retorted, slowly backing off. In that moment, Daniel noticed a pivotal shift. He was ready to fight for his family. "You can keep throwing yourself at Karen, but she's made her choice, and you'll find no place with us." With that declaration hanging in the air, the cafe faded into the background, each whisper and murmur a contrast against the echo of Daniel's spine-tingling certainty. "Enough," he ended, intensifying the moment. Brian stared back, a flicker of acknowledgement dimming the fire in his gaze. "We're not finished here," he told Daniel. "Maybe not, but you need to understand that love is built on trust, and you have none left." With that, Daniel turned away, leaving Brian's words behind as he stepped onto the sidewalk, breathing in the refreshing air, the hustle and bustle grounding him back in the moment, steering him nearer to the reality he craved. As he walked back home, thoughts of his family filled his mind. He was committed to building a future without the looming specter of Brian's interference. As he entered the house, Karen awaited him, concern etched on her face. "How did it go?" she asked, eyes wide as he stepped in. Daniel took a deep breath and felt determination rise within him as he recounted their exchange, infusing their dialogue with honesty and conviction. "He won't give us trouble anymore. I made it clear that it's time for him to respect the boundaries we've set up for our family." Relief washed over Karen, her features relaxing. "I'm so glad, Dan." "I know that must have taken a lot." "It did," he replied candidly, noting her sincerity. "But I'm determined to keep our family safe and healthy from the shadows. We built a family worth fighting for, and I won't let anyone disrupt it." Together they embraced, a moment encapsulated in the warmth of renewed commitment and resolve. In that space, they found solace. While the future remained uncertain, both had the conviction that they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way, resilient in the knowledge that trust and love can be rebuilt over time. They stood together, defiant of what lay ahead and ready to embrace a brighter tomorrow, hand in hand, ready to embark on the journey of healing, growth, and unwavering unity as they transformed their lives into something forged from struggle, yet glimmering with hope.